It was supposed to be the perfect retirement after decades of hard work and raising a family. Linda and I had finally bought our dream cabin by Silver Lake. 4 years. We had fantasized about this moment, the peaceful mornings with coffee in hand, the quiet afternoons fishing on the dock, the sound of loons calling across the water, the kind of life you imagine in postcards and stories, the kind of place where time slows down and all you feel is contentment. We had worked so hard to get to this point. Decades of saving, skipping vacations, driving the same old car while our friends flaunted their shiny new models. I had spent years as a civil engineer, blueprints, concrete, deadlines, the hum of city traffic. But this cabin, this simple 2-bedroom lakeside retreat, was everything we had ever dreamed of. It wasn't fancy. No granite countertops or marble floors, just a home with a porch that creaked when you walked on it, a dock that needed a little TLC, and a view that looked like it was straight out of a painting. The first few weeks were everything we had hoped for. I spent mornings on the dock, reinforcing the old planks, adding a few new ones. Linda, ever the gardener, planted flowers and put up wind chimes on the porch. Our neighbors across the cove waved when they passed, but there was never a hint of trouble, no sign that something was lurking just beyond the horizon. Then, 2 weeks into our dream, Karen Carter rolled into our driveway. We'd heard rumors about her, whispered among the neighbors. They called her the president of the Silver Lake Community Association. At first, we thought it was just another neighborly greeting, another check-in from a community group. But when Karen pulled up in her white golf cart, with that blinding yellow strobe light flashing, something felt off. It wasn't the friendly wave of a neighbor, it was the confidence of someone who felt they owned the place. She came right up to us with that clipboard in hand, chin raised like she was walking onto a movie set. "Good morning," she said with no warmth at all. "I'm Karen Carter, president of the Silver Lake Community Association. I oversee security and standards around here." Her words hit me like a freight train. Security, standards. What on earth was she talking about? Before we could even respond, she handed me a binder. "You're required to join," she said, her voice suddenly hard. "Dues are $600 a year. That covers snow plowing, dock maintenance, and security patrol. We have a committee that approves everything. Paint colors, lawn height, trash bins, you name it." I glanced at Linda, who had this polite smile plastered on her face, but I could see the confusion in her eyes too. We weren't even part of the HOA, not technically. Our property, though right next to it, was outside the association's boundaries. And I remembered the realtor's comment that we could join if we wanted. I politely declined, telling her we weren't aware of the association's existence and wouldn't be joining. She didn't seem fazed. "You'll want to read the rules carefully," she said, her tone turning condescending. "It's not a suggestion. It's how things are run here." With that, she turned and marched back to her golf cart, leaving a thick packet of paperwork in my hands. I stood there, watching her zoom off, the dust rising behind her like a cloud of impending doom. Linda and I exchanged a glance. "That woman seems like trouble," she muttered. I chuckled nervously, but deep down, something didn't sit right with me. The HOA president, with a strobe light. The whole thing felt off, like I had just been introduced to someone who believed they could control every aspect of our lives. I thought it was over, but no, the real trouble had only just begun. Over the next few days, we started getting strange notices in the mail, each one more ridiculous than the last. The first was for unapproved landscaping materials. The fine was $50, a slap on the wrist, but the absurdity of it struck me. The landscaping material in question, a small stack of cedar planks I had neatly arranged by the garage for a planter box I was building. I decided to ignore it. But then, it happened again. A second notice appeared, this time for improperly displaying our trash bins. The HOA bylaws stated that trash cans could only be visible for 12 hours before pickup. We had left ours out the evening before the county collection. Another $50 fine. That was when I started to feel like we were being watched. The golf cart with the flashing yellow light became a regular fixture at the end of our driveway. Karen would sit there for hours, watching us. Sometimes she would be alone. Sometimes she was with someone, a man I didn't recognize who sat quietly next to her, scanning our house like a hawk. I couldn't stand it anymore. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding. This was a deliberate campaign of intimidation. The tipping point came on my 60th birthday. Linda had planned a small family cookout, a chance to relax and enjoy the day with our kids and grandkids. The sun was setting, the smell of grilled corn filling the air, and for a moment, I felt like we had our paradise back. But then I heard the low hum of Karen's golf cart. I turned, and there she was, her yellow strobe flashing as she swerved onto our lawn, blocking the entrance to the driveway. I walked toward her, trying to keep my voice steady. "Karen, is there something I can help you with?" She didn't even look at me. She marched straight to the porch, clipboard in hand, and announced loudly enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, "There's a noise violation in progress, and you have unauthorized guest vehicles exceeding the community limit. You need to disperse your guests immediately." I felt a flash of anger rise up. "Karen, this is my property, my family. There's no violation here. You need to leave." But she stood there, refusing to move. "You're disrupting the peace," she said, her voice dripping with authority. "This is a private community. You need to respect the rules." My friend Dave, who had just arrived with his wife, rolled down his window and tried to reason with her. "We're just here for a birthday party, Karen. There's no need for this." She swung her clipboard at him, her face twisted in fury. "I'm the problem solver," she spat. "And you're all violating the rules." Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, Emily, my daughter, stepped out onto the porch. Emily wasn't just any ordinary woman. She was the youngest sheriff in our county, just 32, and had a presence about her that commanded attention. "Hi there," she said with a pleasant smile, walking toward Karen. "Is there an issue?" Karen looked Emily up and down, sneering. "Another one of you," she muttered. "You think you're above the rules." "Actually," Emily replied, her tone smooth but firm, "you're confusing your HOA rules with public law. My parents aren't part of your association. You have no right to be here, and you certainly don't have any authority to control their guests or the public road." The words hung in the air for a moment. Karen's eyes narrowed. "You think you can just ignore the rules like everyone else?" Without warning, Karen pulled a black semi-automatic pistol from behind her back and pointed it directly at Emily's chest. I froze. The whole world seemed to stop. The backyard, the sunset, even the kids who had been running around in the yard, it all went silent. "Hands up!" Karen screamed, her voice trembling with rage. "You're trespassing. I'm placing you under citizen's arrest." But Emily didn't flinch. She didn't panic. With slow, deliberate movements, she raised her hands to shoulder height, her face calm as steel. "Ma'am," she said, her voice carrying the authority of a sheriff. "I am Emily Reed, Sheriff of Willow County. You are committing aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. I am ordering you to put that firearm on the ground, right now." Karen's eyes flickered between Emily and the approaching sirens. The sound of police cars grew louder in the distance. She hesitated, her fingers trembling around the gun. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, but I knew there was nothing more I could do. It was up to Emily now. "Drop the weapon," Emily said, her voice a low command. And then, with a loud clatter, the gun hit the asphalt. The sirens arrived moments later, and Karen was quickly arrested. The deputies took her into custody without any resistance. We were left standing there, the strobe light from her golf cart still flashing in the twilight, a haunting reminder of the power she had once thought she held over us. In the days that followed, the truth came out. Karen's HO was a fraud, a defunct nonprofit that hadn't filed the necessary paperwork in over a year. She had been collecting dues under false pretenses, pocketing money for services that never existed. The entire neighborhood began to come together, realizing how they had been manipulated. We weren't the only ones she had terrorized. Karen was arrested, and after a quick trial, she was convicted of several felonies, including aggravated assault and fraud. She was sentenced to probation, and her so-called reign over Silver Lake came to an abrupt end. It wasn't just the end of an HOA tyrant. It was the beginning of a new chapter for our family and the entire neighborhood. For the first time in months, Silver Lake felt peaceful again. The kids played by the dock without fear. Linda and I sat on the porch swing, enjoying the quiet evening, knowing that our dream cabin was truly our own. And for me, the most important lesson I learned was that sometimes standing up to a bully doesn't require force. It just takes calm, courage, and the truth.